Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Dentistry Unmasked. I'm Pam Maragliano-Muniz. With me, as always,
Hey Pam, David Rice here. How are you?
I'm good. Now, let's be honest. Before we kick into the conversation that we're going to have, you made a promise last week. Do you remember the promise?
Can I say no or
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, then I will remind you because whatever. You told me and everybody out there that you were going to share your spirit animal.
I
I
did,
want to
didn't
hear
I?
it.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone wants to know.
This may not have a rhyme or a reason to it, but I did think about it and I harken back to like being a kid and I'm going Black Panther.
Ooh, okay. Why?
Like a little mysterious. Not really going to show you all my cards. Like I can be aggressive when I need to be, but really like protective of my family and my core people. That's all I got, Pam.
No, I think that's really good. So when I was talking about this last week, I said one of my spirit animals is a cockroach. And
Yeah.
so one of my other spirit animals is a house cat because I feel like I come off as kind of aloof and a little chill, but I will claw you if I need to. And I
Ooh.
feel like, yeah, so I feel like I relate with a bunch of different animals. Anyway, we need to move on to this week because this week is going to be good and it's important.
Excellent.
We have Dr. Sonya Reddy with us. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I love
Sorry
that. I
we
want to
had to.
hear more about your spirit animals or maybe I should just go listen to your previous podcast.
Oh, we just sort of, it was kind of like a thing. And then David was like, I don't have a spirit animal. I'm like, everybody has a spirit animal. And I was like, so then I asked him if his spirit animal was roadkill. It was just not, it just took a turn. So he promised to come up with a spirit animal this week, which thankfully he did his homework and he did. So, Sonia, I'm so happy to have you here with us. So I met her, I guess, in Chicago at a technology summit, and we sort of hit it off right away. And you do a lot of things in dentistry. So would you share a little bit about yourself and kind of some of the topics that excite you right now? But I know we're talking specifically about one, but I want to just get to know you a little bit more.
I have practiced for I'll go back a little bit. I started my dental practice, I think a year or two after practicing for like a chain dentistry, and I didn't really enjoy that. And I just didn't want to become one of those kids that never even found out what my patient's name was and just, go in and treat. So I wanted to start my own, and I did start my own. It was a ride for sure. And then I opened a second practice with more sleep and aesthetic. And I sold it less than 6 months ago. And this is about the second practice was all about the sleep and aesthetic cases. So now I'm working more in the sleep industry. Now, the reason we met and the technology event was one of them invited me because they want me to be their, I guess we're still in the talks, but one of the co-founders for one of the sleep companies. So that's where I want to really help out people and really get more out. I was in my practice, but I was helping, I don't know, 7 patients a week or something like that. But I really saw the need for this, and also pediatric, need for sleep apnea and how the orthodontics were done differently. So that's where I'm really going to help out in a couple of industries to bring it out more, not just treat 7 patients and be happy, but really bring it out, to more people out there and talk to more people. So that's my goal, is talk to more people to see what they want, get into moms groups. So I'm excited about the work. I'm taking a little sabbatical, doing a lot of traveling right now, but that's my goal, probably coming back in April and start that process.
I love that transformation. So I think that's where we're headed today, aren't we, Pam? Like the
We
whole
are.
clinical versus non-clinical career and how does that happen? Why?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So, when I was in dental school and when I was a hygienist, Dr. Robert Chapman was one of my mentors. And he told me something which I just wasn't in dentistry long enough to like let it sink in at the time. But he said that you're going to find that your interests change probably every 7-ish years. Your
Mm.
career is going to go in different cycles and your interests are going to change. But what you did is really bold because it's a big deal to sell your practice. Like my practice is like my home. It's like where I am. And I feel like to make that decision to kind of switch gears and move somewhere else is a big one. And so would you share a little bit about that journey for you? And, how did you make that decision to do that? And also, you must have had a lot of passion, inspiration, strategy, planning to obviously move on to the next thing. And I think people need to hear that.
I had, when you have your practice, just like you said, that's home for you. I had private equity company approach me, and the way, they wanted me to run is, to stay in the practice and let's make this bigger, right? Like it's just not you. You're going to have associate dentists. You can train dentists. I was always passionate about teaching. So they had that niche for me. It's like, oh, let's come in, we'll buy you, and we'll probably put in more doctors, and you can treat more people, or you can take time off, whatnot, but you can train dentists. So when they came to me, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I was not ready. I started talking to somebody, and then I got this feeling like, oh my God, this is my place. Somebody wants to take my place. And, it didn't work out for me at all. I got really emotional about the whole transition. So then I think 3 years later, the COVID happened. And I think just being alone, I talk about this a lot, it's just being a single owner of like practices. I felt really lonely. And that's when I was thinking about, okay, maybe what if I had taken that jump those 3 years ago when they came to me, I would have had support, how to navigate this whole situation. So I think it's a craving of like being really a lonely CEO of these two practices. And of course, I come from a place where I always want to grow, help more people. And I think there was just like a time where I was like, okay, I think this is the right time for me to consider partnerships and all that stuff. And when the partnership really came about, I felt the loss of autonomy in some of the places, like it is, normally. So I think that's when I decided that I want to do something on my own, more on the innovation side. I got into sleep about 2014, and I've been doing sleep, and I wanted to just do sleep because that's where I felt I was able to help a lot more people and really help them like better their lives. So I think, it's a long story, but I think like you said, 7 years, everybody changes. It's like, what are you more drawn towards? It's not like you cannot do one thing. You're more drawn towards save lives and helping people with sleep apnea. And then, an event happened where my dad got into hospital, and his personal story was about, how we could help him with sleep apnea. So it became really personal at some point.
I love that passion piece. I think that's really important. When people talk about burnout in clinical dentistry, and I'm going to shift gears and pick up and move on and move out. I think what I see over and over and over again in Facebook groups is people are saying, so what should I do? And I cringe on the inside because I want to say, if you're asking the world what you should do is not leave your present career.
Absolutely. Yes.
So how did you did this passion just kind of bubble up inside of you, or did you learn some new things, or your experience with your dad? What was it that you kind of woke up and said, there's enough fire inside me right now that I'm going to pursue something else?
It was my dad and also my daughter. We were struggling with her breathing and her snoring, and ADHD like symptoms, and not having find a solution really, which is non-medical, because everybody wanted to put her immediately want to put her on ADHD medication. And that's not what resonated with me. I felt like there has to be some answers. There's something more to this situation than just put her on medications. So I think that's when I read the book, the Whole Mouth, by I should remember that name, but and that's when it really opened up my mind about the whole how mouth is a leading cause for everything, all of it. Big jaws lead to better airway, and we don't do that with kids. We just extract those teeth and put them in braces and expect it to work. So I feel like there's a lot of, the European people, like a lot of my friends that are in dentistry in Europe, Australia, they were already doing this stuff. In America, it was not very common. They were already working about, like, thinking about jaws, the tongue tie. And America wasn't thinking about that. So that's what I wanted to bring about. And then and every time I helped a patient, it felt like more people needed help because I was just in my neighborhood. Everybody wanted help, and I talked to other doctors, and we're all passionate about it because it helps people, it saves lives.
So
Love it.
passion's a reason to leave, obviously, and
There you go.
a reason to switch gears and, kind of pursue a different interest. But I think a lot of people at this moment, here we are, 5 years after the pandemic, people are driven by burnout, right? They sit here and they're
Yes.
like, you know what? This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Something's got to be better somewhere else. And I guess maybe I'm just going to go pursue that. I
Right.
think that's becoming kind of an upcoming epidemic among dental professionals.
Have you seen that interesting point about burnout? Like, have you seen that with your staff or with other doctors? Is it because we don't have enough support system, or is our relationship with stress, how we handle stress, and we're just getting? What is the reason for burnout? Like you're seeing in your, you're talking to tons of doctors.
I think it's the challenges, like the pandemic related challenges. I think that, we're not making as much money as we used to.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yeah.
we could do the same procedure as we did 7 years ago, and we're making less today than we did before because of all of the overhead and supply chain costs and tariffs, I guess, and all of the things. But also, there's a supply issue with the team members. And thankfully, that hasn't been, initially I changed my team around significantly in
Yeah.
2020. There was obviously a time trying to kiss a few frogs and get the right people in. But once I got them, thankfully, they're around. And so I think that some of those challenges have been really difficult. And I think that some of the hygienists that haven't left after the pandemic are now working more than they ever have because there's so many opportunities and there's dentists just begging for them to come and work. And so I think that it's multifactorial. That's where I'm going with that. TLDR, multifactorial.
Absolutely. And what do you like? What I'm sensing when I felt lonely, I would have won more community and more interaction, more close connections with other people, boss ladies like you, potentially, and just team coming together with a unified approach. Because as you said, the cost for managing practice went up, but our compensation did not go up. And patients became more picky, employees became picky, and it all came down to you, which is the top at the top level, and that made you feel lonely, working extra hard, and people started questioning, why are we doing this?
I agree with that. I add another layer. Generationally, we have lost and we are continuing to lose the ability to connect as real people, not on social media, through text, through email, through DM. So I'm going to say something that's going to make people mad, but it's true. When your relationships are on this, you're going to fail as a leader.
Yes.
That's not real. So yes, it can be, I should say, it can be very lonely in a dental practice if that's how you relate to people. But those who I think really enjoy it have learned how to build like a true culture within their building and real relationships with their team, real relationships with their patients, so they feel like fulfilled. And those who can't find that fulfillment, I think burn out faster.
I think that's true even in life, right? Doesn't matter where you end up going. People want to gravitate towards family because they have a sense of community. I think we thrive in general, like success or not, like we are happier people when we can connect truly. I could see Pamela online all day, but just meeting her and just connecting with her, even like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, felt more impactful. And I feel really close to her already just because of that, right? So there's definitely something to say that COVID actually put a damper on that, because we never met anyone in person after that, right? It was mainly Zoom calls and whatnot. Every conference was canceled. So I think we're bringing that back. I love it.
I
Yeah.
think it's hard though for some older dentists, for example. I think about when I was a hygienist and some of the dentists that I worked for. And I mean, they liked me enough. They'd greet me in the morning and, sort of chat, sort of some, to some extent throughout the day. Always said goodbye. I mean, like I liked the offices, respect the doctors, not saying anything bad, but they didn't have to deal with all the BS that
Yeah.
I think I deal with now. And I don't know if it's a woman thing or if it's a culture thing, but I feel like, and again, some of these people are now retired and they're probably thanking their lucky stars that they are. Because if we were like, hey, we now need culture and I want to feel valued and I need to change the practice because this is where we're going. I think some of them would have been like, this is insane. Like, this is a dental office. You show up, you do your job, and you leave. And that's not good enough anymore. But I don't think that sentiment is inherent among everybody. And I think it can be challenging for doctors too.
I agree with that. Like, dentistry attracts a certain persona. I think overall, right? We need to be highly analytical. We need to be people who can focus in order to, just just pick sleep, right? You're dialing, if you're fabricating an oral appliance and you're doing it well, you're dialing this thing into millimeters of movement. It's not this big giant gross, movement that makes it successful and keeps patients safe. But so who are we attracting into our profession as dentists, hygienists, assistants? And then how is that evolving over time? Because I think today's dentist looks a whole lot different than the dentist, to your point, Pam, of 40 years ago. It's a different human.
And also, all the patients that are coming to our offices, they have been tortured by previous, setups and whatnot. They bring all that stuff with you, right? But they're
Yep.
like, "Oh, you don't look like a dentist." I mean, how often do we hear that? You don't look like a dentist. Oh, you're too young to be a dentist. And I think there's definitely I've definitely felt it. I think being a female boss is definitely different. I wouldn't say hard or not, but I think it's definitely different plethora compared to a male doctor, because the respect they get, the attention, and for a female, we're considered more, like you said, the personalities. Like, are we a boss? Are we friends? I mean, are we having lunch together? Like, where is the boundary, right? You're still the boss at the end of the day. You're not working for charity. It's the practice has to be profitable. They have to get their bonus to feel better. So I agree with
Well, I
you.
guess that brings me to another thought. So, a lot of us go into practice ownership because there's this entrepreneurial factor. There's an autonomy factor that we're craving. We want to do things our own way. And you get used to it, whether you've, done it for 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years, you get used to being in charge of your own schedule, of your own, everything in your practice. And when you transition out, it might seem like the grass is greener and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I got to do something else. I think going from employer to employee is actually a whole journey that you have to be ready for. And so so I mean, you went from employer to employee back to employer in essence, right? Because you're now
Yeah.
back to doing the thing. So how do you know it's the right move for you?
I think this resonated with me almost like a few years before. I feel like the answers are within you. Like David said before, if you're asking the world, what should I do? Versus, you wake up and you're like, hey, I hear this, voice, and this is my path in life. I think just like anything, is it something you've created or is it something you're hearing? And this is where your path. I think when you change paths, it feels natural for you. And when you think about the possibility, if it excites you, and if it feels like you're helping more people, and even yourself, right? Like you said, the whole culture, situations, all that stuff it's what is expected right now is not like a reality back in the day. So is that something you want to do for the rest of your life? Or, maybe you're just happy, intervention, or maybe be an employee somewhere. I don't think I can be an employee. Just, I know that. So I'm not trying to be, but I think I'll be happy if I know if I'm helping more people, but less stress for me. A different type of stress, right? It's not like a patient stress, it's a different type of stress. But I know at the end of the day, I did all this like podcasting, talking on TV, and I felt like just I was going in that path anyway, just wanted to get the word out. By being in the office, I couldn't get the word out because I was busy taking care of those 5 patients a day. So how
I
would you know, Pamela? Would you ever change your path?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've changed practices, and obviously I bought my practice in 2014, but I've worked in other practices first. And I even tried to change my name for a minute. Tried to use my married name over my maiden name. That didn't go so well because people thought I spoke Spanish because of my last name. And when they met me, they were extraordinarily disappointed. And so, I mean, certainly change is not something that's unfamiliar to me, but letting go of my practice would be one of my bigger things, to consider to let go. I feel like even my industry roles has been an evolution as well, teaching, et cetera. But just making that decision to leave my practice, I think I'm trying to work to set myself up so it's going to be up to me, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's also important to take really good care of yourself so that again, it's up to you and it's not, I can't practice anymore because my back, my neck, my shoulder, whatever doesn't work anymore. But I do think it will feel right when the time goes. And I also think that for me, I don't think I'm going to practice, and then retire. Like, I just don't think that's going to be for me. So I think I will probably, like you're saying, have an interest. It'll be ignited in one way or another. You like how I use that, David? Ignited. And then,
well done. Well
and
done.
then, and I feel like then it will feel more inherent. I will not be on a social forum being like, hey guys, when should I quit? I don't think that'll ever be a thing for me. I think it will feel like a natural evolution.
And also, I think, the newer generation is happy to take breaks. I just read this article, super interesting, and I love it. They work for 2 years and they'll take a full year off, and then they go back into the work field. So to me, I don't feel like I'm done with dentistry, right? Like I'm just doing something different, the innovation side of it, and if that ends up being fully part-time and whatnot, I might still go back to doing, a parts of dentistry. So for me, I think the biggest thing I received, a lot of people like, you're so young, why are you retiring? And it might not be retiring, it might be changing my vision. And I take like a year off and travel and do things with my family. And, you know, I never felt like having my practice, I could go away more than 2 to 3 weeks, right? It just unheard of to be gone for 4 months and when your patients are waiting for you. So I think it could be, and I love that, attitude of like, it's okay to listen to yourself and people that are out there that are feeling like, oh my God, am I a failure to want to quit at this point and just restart? Like we talked about hygienists wanting to quit and becoming consultants. I mean, if you want to take a break, you can take a break. You don't have to do consulting, or you don't have to call yourself a new title. And then, go back to clinical dentistry, and create better liaisons and, better relationship with the doctor, and just kind of be self-aware of what went wrong, what caused more stress, and become like a better person for handling stress.
So strategically, if someone is thinking about evolving, changing, what do you feel like the core things they really need to consider before taking that jump so they have the ability to take that year off or transition to something different? Like what must they do so they're really ready for it?
A great question, really great question. I thought about this a lot. I think number one is your family on board? Because that decision is going to affect whoever is in your life, right? Your boyfriend, your husband, your kids. So I think, socialize that idea with your family, because that's going to be your support system. You don't want to live with criticism, right? Oh, you just left and we're left with no money or whatnot, or you're at home all the time now. Um, so socialize that with the family. And then, of course, finances are number one. So who are you supporting right now? And what do you need when you take that break? And how long can you support yourself? I think those to me are like stand up right on top of my head, because without those two, it's really hard. And then, do you really want to take a break of like, I don't know, an year, 2 years? What is that you want? Or you want to just do eat, pray, and love like 4 months and then you come back and, you don't need that. I really don't think it's about running away from your problems. It's really, if you want to meditate on what's causing you stress, it's all us, right? Our, we are the same thing in every situation. So I can change the situation, but it's just me and my aura. So really asking, looking straight in the mirror and asking, what has to change for me to be happy or fulfilled? Quitting my job might not be, because those thoughts stay with me at all times. So really figure out like what is causing you and what has to change for your happiness. And try that. Maybe if you can just socialize that part-time, it's better, instead of just diving into it, right? Because you might think there's some other job that Pamela is offering might be my solution. Work with her for a little bit, right? Like work part-time and see how you connect. If you're still having issues with people in your practice, and now you have issues with the new person that you're working with, maybe it's us. It's not going to change.
That was the most brilliant 3 minutes I've heard in a long time. So if you're listening to this, rewind and re-listen to everything Sonya just said. That's your ticket.
I have a question though for both of you. We're in such a weird time right now where there's people that are stressed out. Some practices are struggling. Some are on the other hand, completely thriving. We've got this, kind of push with private equity and these larger corporations popping up periodically. I think we're still in the mix of it. I don't think things have kind of like the dust has settled even since the pandemic. Do you guys think dentistry is going to be better off since people are heading down this path of mental and, well-being and wellness? Do you think that when things finally calm down and settle out, do you think that patients, dental care, oral health, and dentistry as a whole will be better?
No, I don't. I think medicine in our country has gone downhill in the last decade, and dentistry is dangerously following
It's a
suit.
loaded question for sure.
Well, I mean, we're talking about, which, and I am 100% into the pursuit of happiness, and I am. But I will say during the pandemic, being closed for 3 months from my practice, I remember the first guy who called me as an emergency. I was so happy. He couldn't wait to get me off the phone, but I wanted to keep him on the phone. And I learned in that moment that I identify as a dentist. Like I like practicing and I love my patients. And, I have a small practice. I have a relationship with my patients, all the things. So I'm not dying to get out. And I like that I have other things within the industry. So I'm keeping interested and, motivated throughout the way. But not everybody's that happy in practice. And obviously there's people that want to get out and want to do something else. But we can't have 90% of the healthcare providers as consultants and 10% practicing. You know what I mean? I feel like, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to our respective communities. And so, do you think that when we finally achieve this, if it's even ever achievable, this ability to feel fulfilled and happy and not burnt out? And obviously it's a cycle. There's times when I'm burnt out and I hate my life too. So don't pretend I'm not on, I'm not singing rainbows at the moment, but I'm saying when you figure out what that
Dentists
looks,
have the highest suicide. So
yeah, like, are we ever going to get to a point where dentistry is getting better? And, as a result of us seeking our own personal well-being, is that going to help us become better for our practices, for our patients, for our communities and our team?
I think dentistry is so many different things, right? There is a time where I go into rabbit holes where and I loved it at that time. And then I worked for 5 years. And then I think the more deeper you go into one subject, and for me, that's what happened. Like you do implants and some of the implants or the crowns keep coming off and you wonder why. And then you realize sleep is the holy grail that you need to fix before you can put them on these dentures. So I feel like my journey, for me at least, it's like the more rabbit holes I went, the little I felt like I knew, and the more I needed to learn. And so I think at some point you land somewhere, it's like, oh my God, I would love to do this for the rest of my life. I wanted to become an endodontist right after I graduated with no experience. And I'm glad I never did that because I would be miserable. And, some of my friends practiced dentistry for so long and then went back to being orthodontists. So I think there's a place for all of us. We just have to figure out what makes us happy and what type of dentistry we want to provide. Right? Because there is fee for service, DSO type of, there's no perfect place, right? In life, it's what suits you.
I love that. And I wish we had another hour to talk because 30 minutes cranks by. But I think you said so many incredible things today and brought so much great advice. Even that last little bit, like we have all these beautiful options in dentistry. I think it's critical for us each to find our best path. Pam?
Yeah, I agree. And Sonia, you are so insightful and inspiring. And I think that you're such a great role model for people that aren't happy in the status quo and want to really pursue their interests and their options and do it successfully. So where can people find you, follow you, and continue to learn from you?
I am on Instagram, Dr. Sonya Reddy, like Dr. Sonya Reddy. And then I am launching this Lone CEO. It's only to create a community where we can go to health retreats, talk about wellness, and like you mentioned before, self-awareness and wellness. And I think if we have a community where, we feel good about ourselves, I think no matter where you are in dentistry, you'll be happy. And yeah, on LinkedIn, but I'm traveling currently.
So they'll be following you for adventures. So for the immediate present. So no, and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
You guys,
thank you so much, and we will see you soon.
Super inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everybody, thank you for joining us for Dentistry Unmasked, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.